Alrighty, so welcome to today's Relationships and Little Me webinar. So here we go, I'm going to share my screen with you now. So can everyone see the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, beautiful. So I'm always really curious to know where you're from. So if you can, just drop it in the little chat section and let me know where you're tuning in from around the world. So for those of you who don't know, I have a Facebook group called Healing Little You, where I have a whole bunch of units, videos, lessons in there to help you heal your inner child. So if you do feel the pull and you want to, please join, and you can catch me in there doing lives at different times as well. So my name's Anthea Spark and I'm a soul-centered coach, and the main areas that I specialize in are inner child healing, relationships and self-love. I'm also a kinesiologist, an energy healer and intuitive card reader. I'm the proud mum of Olivia and Sophie. They're my little angels and they are my little mirrors. You know, they're my biggest teachers, and they teach me how I can become a better adult each and every day. So if you're not on mute, I'm just going to pop you on mute. There we go. Okay. All right. So over the last 24 years, I have been studying spirituality, personal development. I've gone and got a diploma in psychotherapy, soul-centered psychotherapy, kinesiology, community service work. So I've done a lot of different, I've educated myself in a lot of different ways to help people. And I've used all of my own personal experiences with the things that I've learned to create my methods and my teachings, because I feel like that is the best way to help people through your own personal experiences. Because I've been in deep and dark places and I've been a victim and I've struggled with relationships and inner child, I can actually help people come out of those places based on my own experiences. So what I did when I was healing myself, when I was, went in and I started doing the inner work, was these are the things that I did to transform my life, right? I had to shift my mindset, which is something that has been the most profound experience, flipping my mindset inside and out and having a look at where I was negative, really taking responsibility for my past and my experiences and how I've been creating chaos and abundance and love in my life, really looking at that, right? Because it's a really empowering thing to do. Creating awareness, literally shining a light, like this person's holding a torch in the dark. Awareness is when you shine a light on your shadow and you become aware of how you contribute to your own pain and suffering. Shifting your perspectives, that really helps you shift your perspectives. Learning how to open up and receive, right? So we're all, usually us who have inner child trauma, we're all really good givers, right? We want to give, we want to make people happy. It makes us happy when we make people happy, but we can struggle to receive. So it's really important that you learn how to receive, because it actually makes you a better giver as well. And then healing my inner child, which is how Healing Little Me, Healing Little You, that group, how it began. And it was a very profound experience for me. And it is a really, really powerful way to heal your adult when you heal your inner child. So that's a little bit about me. That's how I've come to do what I do. And there's a lot more to that story, but there's so much to get through today that I'm going to leave it there, right? So I want you to let me know in the chat, why are you here? What's the main thing that shows up for you in your relationships, in your adult relationships, whether they're romantic or your friendships or your relationships with your children, that is from your childhood? Yeah, what is the main thing that shows up from your childhood in your adult relationships today? So I'm just having a look here. So Tanya's from New Brunswick in Canada. Oh, wow. And Chris is from Oklahoma in USA. Julie's from Melbourne. So Tanya's saying not feeling enough, right? And then Julie's saying fear of abandonment. These are great. These all stem from something that happened in your childhood, right? So anything anything that holds us back in our adult life is directly linked to some kind of childhood trauma, belief, experience. And, it doesn't have to be a trauma. It doesn't have to be something massive. It could have been, I have a lot of people who come to me and they're like, I had a great childhood. Yeah, my parents were both present. Everything was great in my childhood. But there must be something, there could be something very, very small that happened, right, in your childhood that made you believe like you weren't enough. And that could have been you feeling compared to your siblings, or you feeling compared at school, or something like this. And when you start to dig and you look back, you will find the answers that you seek, okay? And often it's not intentional. The adults in our life didn't intend to hurt us in that way, right? They were still learning and growing as well. But there's always something there that if you look, you will find, all right? So does that make sense to everyone? Chihiro is also saying fear of abandonment, and Chris is saying I have a few issues. Yeah, so we've all got something, right? We've all got something that when we get into those adult relationships, whether they're romantic or not, we're confronted with our insecurities. And that's a really great opportunity to do the inner work and learn and grow, right? So we'll go into that a little bit more. So how little you shows up in your relationships. All right, so we're going to go into that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the whiteboard to do these little diagrams to explain to you further how this happens and how it shows up, right? So if you saw in the Healing Little You group, I did a live about this exact thing that I'm going to show you now, but we're going to go into a little bit more detail about this now. So when you meet someone, and again, we're just in this example, we're going to use the example that this is a romantic relationship, okay? So when you meet someone, whether you're in, it doesn't matter what gender you're attracted to, right? I've just got a man and a woman in this one, but it relates to all relationships. When you meet someone, you fall in love, or you're really, really attracted to this person, and it's like an instant spark. We essentially fall in love, or we fall in lust, okay? Now, what happens is we all have from our childhood like a few layers of defense, of our defense mechanism, okay? So does everyone understand what I mean when I say defense mechanism? Does everyone understand what a defense mechanism is? Or the walls we use to protect ourselves. Just have a look here. Yep, okay, good. So if you don't know what a defense mechanism is, just drop a little comment and I'll explain it further, but I will go into it. I've got a diagram to take you guys through of the defense mechanism. So what happens here is that this heart-to-heart thing that happens here, it generates hope, right? It generates hope in us that, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is so delicious. This is exciting. This could be my person, even if it's just a friendship, right? You could meet a man that you go fishing with, right, Chris? Like, let's say it's fishing. You meet a man that you go fishing with, and they feel like home. They just get you, and you just laugh and you have a good time, and you can sit there in silence and not feel the need to speak constantly, right? So it creates this really great feeling of hope that you've found someone to enjoy your time with, or if you feel like you're falling in love, it creates this hope. And what that does is it actually makes you fall in love with yourself, right? So inside of your defense mechanism is you've got all this love. You've got all this love flowing. So you've got the love flowing through the other person to you and back. So you're giving and receiving. It's this beautiful exchange of love, right? And you've got love for yourself. You've got a deeper sense of appreciation for yourself, right? So it actually makes you feel like, you know what, I can be myself for this person, and they're showing up consistently, and I can lower my guard a bit with them. So you start to remove one of your layers of your defense mechanism, right? You get rid of it, and you're like, you know what, it's actually really safe. I feel really safe with this person, right? And even if I don't speak to them every day, and even if I don't, if we're not in constant communication, it doesn't matter, because when I connect with them again, that love is still strong, right? Now, when we lower our defense mechanism, actually, let me say this too. Often, and this is what I'm finding more and more and more with, twin flames, soulmates, people who are highly intuitive and spiritual, what I'm finding, the more people I talk to and work with about relationships, is that this heart to heart, it helps them tap into their childlike essence, right? Because they can be unfiltered and be themselves in this connection and this relationship, it's helping them reconnect to their inner child again, which is really beautiful, right? Because we want to bring that in. We want to bring the inner child into our adult relationships, because when we become adults, we become a bit rigid and we get all bogged down with responsibilities and we become a bit boring, right? So we want to bring our inner child in. So it feels really good. It feels really, life becomes exciting again, right? Can everyone relate to that? So, but what can happen too is, if you have been deeply wounded, right? If you do have, like, let's say you've had let's go with abandonment. Okay, let me just see what else was said. We've got it. So we've got 2 with abandonment. And we'll talk about not feeling good enough too, okay? So let's say this person over here, not good enough. Okay, and over here we have abandonment. So this person over here has had their last 3 relationships have abandoned them. Yeah, they've literally given these people their all. They have gone above and beyond for the relationship, for the person, and they have been left feeling abandoned, right? Often they feel not good enough because that person has abandoned them. And it creates this wound. So what happens is that the wounded ego, which often lives in the head, that's that voice in your head, right? That's like, careful, you're getting a little bit too big for your boots here. Yeah, just be careful now. You're opening your heart a bit too much. This person can really hurt you, just like the last person did, and the person before that, and the person before that. And, it can get nasty. This voice can get nasty. It can be like, it can create chaos, and it can create stories that are not even present in this new connection. Okay, but your inner child, little you, little version of you, has got some stuff, has got some suppressed emotions, is angry. Okay, is angry because of whatever happened in childhood, where you created this belief or this idea of abandonment. Perhaps you were abandoned in your childhood. Often when we feel that we have these repetitive situations that happen over and over again where people abandon us, there is some belief there. There is some experience from childhood that tells us that we're going to be abandoned again. Yeah, it always starts in childhood. So little you has been kind of warning you. He teams up with the wounded ego who's in your head, little you, and the little you goes, it's going to happen again. Whether you're consciously hearing it or not, this belief, this story that runs over and over again is strong, because little you's like, remember Cheryl? She did that too. Remember Julie? She did that too. Remember Sam? They all abandoned you, right? So little you's going, you idiot, what are you doing? Stop it. And then the voice in your head gets louder. And that's where you can start to get defensive, okay? And you can start to shut yourself down a little bit. So it weakens this connection a bit, and it makes this connection stronger, okay? Now, what happens to the other person, right, is they start to notice a change in your behavior, right? And perhaps they invite you out and they're like, oh, do you want to catch up tonight? And you say, actually, I'm going to pass. And you don't actually explain why you're not catching up. And then they start to feel rejected, right? Because of their own wounds. They feel like they're not good enough. Yeah, is everyone following so far? They feel like they're not good enough. So now the voices in their head start, and their inner child starts to go off, and their inner child's going, oh my God, it's starting to happen again. It's starting to happen again, because this is exactly how things played out with John. John did exactly the same thing to you. Remember when things started to go pear-shaped? And it was at the 4-month mark. And now this is at the 4-month mark, and it's happening again. Again, that feeling of not feeling good enough stemmed from some childhood trauma or wound. And now history is repeating itself, right? But sometimes what can happen is, even if the voices are strong, the heart-to-heart connection can be stronger, right? And often it is. Often at this point, people will push through, or they'll proceed, and they may even lower more of their defense mechanism. Yeah, but that's when the voice will get louder. Now, that can be different when you move slowly and you build trust with someone. Yeah, and you go in with your eyes open. You don't just jump in. Sometimes this is unavoidable and we can feel it really deeply. But what's important is that when you have inner child trauma and you have these abandonment wounds and rejection and not feeling good enough, is that you move through this connection in a logical way. So this is where you have to tune into yourself, and you have to be like, okay, what do I need to do to feel safe? Safe. Your inner child needs to feel safe. Otherwise, they will wreak havoc in your adult relationships. Okay. So does that make sense to everyone? Let me just check the messages. If you're with me so far, great. So we can move on. If there's any questions, now's a good time to unmute yourself and ask. No? Okay. All right. So let's move on. Let's talk about the defense mechanism, okay? Because this is really important. This is what I was talking about in here. Because what we need to do is we need to decide what is going to help us lower our defense mechanism in a healthy way, okay? Because you can't be receptive. You can be a little bit, you can be a little bit, but you can't be in an all-loving, deep and intimate relationship when you have your defense mechanism up and strong and fully protecting you, right? Yes, you can lower it slowly, and I advise that you do that. But if you want to experience deep intimacy, like the intimacy that you dream about, like having that all-loving partner and that person who stands beside you and wants to do the work with you, and you want to have that romance of a lifetime, then you're going to have to learn how to lower your defense mechanism and self-soothe and do the inner work, right? So let's go through this. Let's go through the defense mechanism. So we have, what I call the outer layer of your defense mechanism, which is often, it's how you react, right? So these are some of the things that you can do to protect yourself, or that you may notice other people do to protect themselves from you, right? Now, when you're an all-loving person and you've done the inner work, you may be a lot more advanced than this person over here that you're trying to connect with, okay? But you still have to be mindful. You can't come in and just throw your cups of love at people, because you will burn them and they will react in one of these ways. They will push you away. They will be angry. They will be aggressive, which will then in turn leave you resentful, doubt your self-worth, right? Make you suspicious if this is a really good person. Yeah, make you want to isolate, make you want to shut down. So it's really careful to proceed with caution. Now, little you, where little you often jumps in and wants to protect you, little you can also behave in the opposite way. Little you can, you know how they say love is blind, right? And you meet this person and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I just want to dive into it. Little you can actually push you to dive into it. Yeah. And this is where you, the adult, has to go, hang on a minute. I know you're excited and you want to play, but let's just pump the brakes a little bit. Yeah, let's just slow down. Is that making sense to everyone? So these are some of the things you see people do when you're trying to get close to them, or some of the things you may do when someone's trying to get close to you. Now, as we move in, as you lower your defense mechanism, right, and things, let's say things are going really well, and you lower your defense mechanism and they lower their defense mechanism, right? And so now we've got another layer of the defense mechanism gone, another layer here gone. What happens is the relationship deepens. Yeah, this gets stronger. This heart to heart gets stronger, and the doubt up here, it actually gets smaller, because you're like, oh wow, they saw me push them away and they noticed that, and we talked about it, right? Because you got to talk about these things. You got to talk, you to say, you know what, I actually have abandonment wounds, so I need to proceed with caution, because if I move too quickly, I'm going to run, or I'm going to get defensive and I'm going to get really scared, and that's when my aggression comes out. When my suspicious archetype comes out, because you're moving too fast for me and I'm feeling pressure, she can be nasty, she can be sarcastic, she can be judgmental, right? That's all really common ways we push people away. We find something to judge them about, and then we attack them and we push them away. And they may have just thrown a cup of love at us, okay? So this is where you've got to communicate, and you've got to be like, you know what? I really like you. I think you're amazing. I love this delicious connection we're sharing, but I need to proceed slowly. Otherwise, I'm going to run away. I need time to process my emotions and triggers, because this type of relationship can be scary as hell, especially if you've been trying to find it for the last 30, 40, 50 years, and then you find it and you're like, oh my God, this is everything I've ever wanted. And your inner child goes, shit, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Yeah. We're never just going to meet someone and be able to just dive into it and it's going to be this fairy tale ending, right? It's going to require us to get vulnerable, use our emotional maturity when things show up, communicate, lower our defense mechanisms, learn how to do something we've never done before in a healthy way, okay? All right, so when we break past this thick layer of the defense mechanism, we start to become more vulnerable. We allow the other person to see the corners of our soul more. We allow the connection to grow deeper, right? But we're still protecting part of us. There's still this element of protection. And in the middle of all of this defense mechanism is pain. We all are protecting ourselves from one thing, and that's pain. We don't want to be hurt again. Yeah. When people are asked what is holding them back from dating again or experiencing relationships again, it all comes down to the same thing: past trauma in relationships, right? And so our experiences have been that these people that we loved and we gave our all to were the ones who hurt us the most. They were the ones who were the most brutal to us. And so that's what builds the defense mechanism, okay? So when you do the inner work and you align, you become whole again, and you heal all this past stuff, and you heal your inner child, and you learn how to open your heart and be vulnerable without fear, you will know if somebody's right for you or not. You will know whether you want to get into a relationship with them or not. There will be this deep knowing in your soul, right? But if you're not sure, if there's uncertainty, that's where you're like, oh, I love this person, but I don't know, like, That's where you have to go in and look at why you're confused, if this person is for you or not. When you are in touch with your intuition and you're aligned, you'll know like that. Yeah? So let's talk a little bit now about you and your emotions, right? So what does it feel like when you are overwhelmed with your emotions? What happens to you? because this is what can happen. This connection can bring up, especially if you have unresolved issues from your childhood and your inner child is carrying anger. When this happens, this can be really overwhelming and confronting for people. We all say we want love, but then when it shows up, it can scare the bejesus out of us. And so what happens when you're overwhelmed with emotions? Do you feel like you want to run? Do you want to attack the other person to push them away so you can sabotage it? What do you do? What does it feel like? Does anyone want to share? Someone's put something in the chat. Michelle, run. Yeah, because it's overwhelming, right? Because you're like, oh my God. Now, Michelle, tell me, why do you want to run? You know,
because I don't know how to feel about the whole thing.
Okay, so because of confusion?
Yep. 100 different emotions going through my mind.
Right, because it's a lot to process, right? And so what happens is when you want to run, that's where you have to go in and do the work on yourself. And that's where you have to, you know, one of your things should be, is this person emotionally mature? Right? Is this person safe? And is this person emotionally mature? And that's where you would have to be like, hey, I am feeling so much right now. I'm so triggered and activated in so many ways that I need some time out because I need to process my emotions. And I just want you to know that's not about you, that's about me. And I'll come back to you when I'm ready to talk. Now, often when you have someone who's emotionally mature, they'll be like, of course, take your time, do what you need to do. They'll even say to you, do you want to talk about it? Is there some way that I can support you? And if you're not ready to do that, just say not yet. Like, this is where you need to show up as the emotionally mature person and communicate what's going on for you. Now, what we're often programmed to do as the teenager, what do teenagers do? Shut down, go quiet, don't say anything. And this is where ghosting comes in, right? But you got to understand that everyone's got childhood trauma, everyone's got childhood wounds, everyone's got something, some insecurity inside of them. So this is where you said to them, hey, I've got to go out of this bubble for a bit and just process what's going on for me. And then I'll come back and I'll communicate it with you, right? So this is where, Michelle, you go in and you're like, what is happening to me? Take some time out to self-regulate and understand yourself. And then you can come back in and you can be like, you know what? I realized that I've never had a connection like this before. And where it's delicious and it's everything I've ever wanted, it scares the shit out of me, right? So let's say you didn't communicate that to the other person and you just didn't speak to them for 3 days, you just ignored them. Well, of course, they're not feeling good enough, wound is going to become activated. Yeah, this is where you've got to take responsibility in your relationships, all of them. Show up as the empowered adult.
It's funny that last night I got an emoji of ghosting.
Oh, did you?
Right. Yes.
Right, but you've communicated, right?
Yeah, I have,
Yeah.
but I've gone silent for almost 48 hours.
And that's okay, Michelle, because you have communicated what you were doing, right?
Yeah.
You communicated your emotions, you communicated how you feel, and ghosting is where you just disappear and you don't tell anyone anything. That's what ghosting is. You literally just stop talking to someone, right? Whereas you, as the empowered adult, you actually communicated that you're going through some stuff, or you weren't happy about some stuff, and you're actually going you're taking a time out. Yeah? Yeah. Okay, good. So Chris is saying, I tend to be super sensitive and defensive. Right. So when things get overwhelming, right? Yeah. And again, that's because we're like, well, I need to protect myself. Is that what you're going through? Like, I need to protect myself. I don't want someone to, sorry, you're on mute, Chris.
I just take everything too personal.
Yeah. Like as in other people's actions?
Everything. I look for things that aren't even there. And when you look for things that aren't there, you're going to find them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you become a private detective, right?
I'm just super sensitive. Everything is so personal. People don't even mean it that way. I just take it that way. And I'm always defending myself against something. I'm not even being attacked. I'm just super sensitive.
Yeah. And that's where you've got to go in and look at little you, because he's just that defensiveness is a big part of your protective mechanism. It's actually a highly intelligent thing that you decided to do as a child to protect yourself. Okay. But as an adult, in your adult relationships, it doesn't work. Right. And we will go deeper into that because you're doing the program. We'll go deeper into that in the program. And that taking things personally will completely flip. Because when you have a deeper understanding of yourself as a child, right, and why you are the way you are as an adult, then it will pull you out of your wounds and you'll begin to see the other person through the eyes of the adult, not through the eyes of your wounds anymore. And that changes everything. Yeah, makes sense?
I'm listening. Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right. So this is it. Let's just go through this list real quickly. These are some of the ways that you can feel in your adult relationships if you have unresolved childhood wounds, right? So, pardon me, let me just have some water. Do you feel judged or like you're judging the other person? Do you feel attacked by the things that they bring up? So let's say they come back in and they're like, hey, you know what? I feel like you speak to me with tone. Let's say they said that to you. Do you feel attacked? Do you feel reactive to them? Do you explode with emotions or do you go silent? Do you get defensive or feel like you're going crazy because of all the emotions and the mix? Maybe there's mixed messages. Maybe the other person isn't communicating very clearly. Do you get triggered and build walls? Do you feel like you attack yourself in this relationship or your partner? Do you feel trapped and helpless? So feeling trapped is a big one, especially if you were once in a relationship that was really toxic, potentially with someone who had strong narcissistic qualities. Do you feel helpless? You can never agree. So you feel like you're constantly arguing with your partner because they don't understand you. You're trying to be heard. Do you have high expectations of your partner or yourself? Do you feel unloved or that you can't love, that you can't be loving in this relationship? And that often comes back to the defense mechanism, right? Feeling you need to protect yourself. Do you suppress your emotions, isolate yourself? Do you feel like you attract the same experiences or you go into people pleasing and putting your partner first? So if you answered yes to any of those, then that tells us that your defense mechanism is either really, really strong, which it probably is, and that you have a little bit of inner child work to do, which is okay, right? Because once you understand your inner child and you heal that within yourself, then all of those things on that list, you can start to break down those things and change them in your relationships. Now, there is a good chance that when you start to do the inner child healing work, that you may find that the person you're with is either going to change and grow with you or they won't grow. And in you changing, you may find that that relationship breaks down even further. You may find that that's already happened to you, right? It's just something to think about and be aware of. So Julie's just saying, still a work in progress, but as healing and observing is helping. Yeah, so sometimes when you stop reacting, when you heal your triggers and you stop reacting, you start observing yourself and others. And that's where you can really change the relationship dynamics that you have. So let's talk a little bit about childhood conditioning. And I won't go into this too much, but this is often this childhood conditioning shows up in your adult relationships because unconsciously, the way you watched your parents relate with each other and with other people, whether they were together or not, is how you were conditioned to behave in relationships. Right? So this is where you've got to go in and be like, wow, what did I learn from my mom? What did I learn from my dad? What did I learn from their relationship that they had with each other? So let's just talk a little bit about that. So between the ages of 0 and 6, you create your belief systems, and they're based on the things you see adults do and the things you hear adults say. And then you use your own little interpretations to create a rule book for yourself. Okay, so like I was mentioning earlier, it may have just been something slight. Let's say you and your brother were had a competition going, and you were drawing pictures, and your picture, they thought his picture was better, and he won. As a sensitive little boy or girl, you've gone, I'm not good enough, right? Or whatever it is that you created, because kids are really, really sensitive, and we forget that when we become adults, that we were once more sensitive than what we are now. So here's little you at age 6 not feeling good enough, right? And then other things have happened in your adult life that have amplified that belief or that experience that you're not good enough. And so you've got all of these different versions of you, right? Behind every door in this house, there's a different version of you who has unresolved trauma or wounds or experiences, or could just be angry. Let's say this 15-year-old you experienced someone bullying him at school or her at school, and is angry. He's angry for being teased for the whole year. And you haven't resolved that yet. That's still within you. That's still a younger part of you that is over there haunting you, waiting for you to get triggered so that he or she can let the anger out. Because this is what happens when we are bottled up with emotions and our cup is overflowing and full. Eventually we explode. And what happens is we get triggered by something or someone, and that younger version of you kicks open that door, comes in and takes over and is like, yes, now's my time to express. And that person, whoever it is that's triggered you, has just been unleashed on. And it could be 20, 30, 40 years worth of rage or anger, right? And they might be like, whoa, you are crazy. But you're not actually crazy. You just have some suppressed emotions you haven't dealt with. And maybe they spoke to you in the same tone as the person who used to tease you spoke to you with. Yeah? Does that making sense to everyone? So little you, your inner child needs healing. The younger versions of you, when you heal them, it's like, this is what happens. When you heal them, they're allowed out of that room, and they can go back and just be that younger version of you. They're set free. Yeah. Or you can view it like this, that you're actually letting them out of the room. You're welcoming them back into your life. And you're saying, come back. You belong with me. This is how you make yourself whole again. You bring all of the younger versions of you back, and you say, I love and accept you. Come forward. I'm not going to ignore you anymore. Because every time that younger version of you kicks open that door, he's saying or she's saying to you, I want to come home. When are you going to love and accept me? When are you going to bring me? When am I allowed to come home? Yeah, it's like you're at war with yourself here. Does that make sense to everyone? So I want to ask you, what would it mean to be free of the past? What would it mean if you could heal all of those younger versions of you? How would you feel today? So just drop it in the chat for me. How would your life actually change? What would you do? You know, I'll give you an example. It says, because we're always working on something, right? And eventually we'll get to this point in our lives where we don't want to look into the past anymore. Yeah, we don't want to go backwards anymore. We just want to start moving forward. But the reality is, if there is something in your life that you've been trying to heal or achieve, if there's something in your life you've been trying to achieve all your life and you still haven't been able to do it, it's because your foundations, your infrastructure for achieving that is not there. So you have to build an infrastructure. And sometimes you have to go to the past and be like, okay, well, what happened? What the hell happened to me that I can't build this infrastructure? And then once you understand it, you can be like, okay, I'm good. I'm going to build this infrastructure from right here. And then I'm going to make that come to life. I'm going to create that for myself finally. But you need to be whole and aligned to do that. You need all of the younger versions of you to be okay. Okay, so Michelle's saying, be happy, confident, full of life. My cup would be full. Great. Sounds amazing, right? And Julie's saying, I have flashbacks to times of pain when little me and can see connections, but now and then. I acknowledge it now and talk and hug little me. If I could truly befriend little me, I would feel true. Yeah, I would feel true peace, because you know, when you start doing the inner child work, sometimes your inner child doesn't trust you. Yeah, and I've had this where I've taken people privately through a guided meditation and their inner child won't even talk to them. And I'm like, she's not ready yet. She's not ready yet. And this one particular client is because she's so mean to herself. She's mean to herself. She's really hard on herself. She doesn't say nice things to herself. And I'm like, we're going to do that first. Every time you say something mean to yourself, all of the younger versions of you are listening. So you could be a real bully to yourself. Every time you say something positive to yourself, all of the younger versions of you are listening. So they're like, essentially you got to look at it as if they're looking up to you to see if you're a safe option. Are you safe? Are you creating a safe haven for little you to come home? Or are they looking at you and going, I am staying the hell away from her because she's mean or he's mean? This is where the self-love comes in, right? So ask yourself, really, really ponder on this question over the next week. What would it mean to be free? Who would I be? How would I live? What would I do? How would my life change? So I hope that this webinar has helped you in some way. If it has, I'd love to hear from you. You can continue to follow me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. If you have any questions about the webinar, you can contact me directly on Facebook Messenger under Anthea Spark, or you can check out my website or email me. And if this is where you leave us, I hope that you have gained some value from today's webinar. And if you'd like to stay, I'm going to introduce you to my program, my inner child healing program called The Path of the Warrior, which starts in November. Okay. So any questions before I move on? Okay. Okay, so this is my Healing Little You recovery program. Over the last 5 years, I've been working really intensely with people, and it all, you know, and a lot of it is inner child healing and conditioning and understanding oneself better. And so what I've done is I had created this program because I was thinking, how can I create a program that people can come to do that's affordable, for one, because not everyone can afford to work with me privately, is affordable, is going to help people get all of the tools that they need, that all my private clients get, and they can actually practice communicating and being vulnerable and holding space for people. And so I came up with this program. And, you know, I've run other programs before that were 8 or 12 weeks, but I felt like this one needed to be longer because people need time to change and transform. And so the reason why it starts in November as well is because that's when most people's inner child becomes triggered, leading up to Christmas. You know, it's meant to be a happy time for people, but a lot of the times it isn't. Yeah, it's a triggering, overwhelming time, and it brings up all of the past childhood stuff. And so it's a really good time to explore your triggers when they're actually happening. Okay, so what you get in this program is you get 16 one-hour group sessions. Sometimes they go a little bit longer. Halfway through the program, I offer a couple of support sessions midweek to support you even further. You do some guided meditations to heal your inner child. You get a unique affirmation track to support you to reprogram your unconscious mind to help you make the changes that you want to make in your life. You get to work with a supportive group of people. Now, this is powerful because when I put you into private breakout rooms and you guys get to know each other, there's a lot of magic that happens in those breakout rooms, because it's like-minded people with the same intention to heal, connecting. And so what I find is a lot of people who do the program actually become friends, right? And they support each other through the program. But the other thing too is that you get to practice being vulnerable in a safe space, so that when you do go out into the world and you want to explore these relationships, you've already got practice being vulnerable. You know what it feels like. It isn't like ripping the Band-Aid off. You get to rip the Band-Aid off in the group, okay? So you get a lot of transformation in the group. You're not just learning, you're transforming. So there'll be a private Facebook group where you guys can share and connect, and all of the recordings each week, the program will be recorded and will be uploaded into the group. We do a lot of emotional detox challenges, right? Where you will release suppressed anger and sadness and judgment, all sorts of things. You'll have a deeper connection with yourself, which is what this is all about. Yeah, so that you can understand yourself better, so you can make better decisions for yourself in certain relationships. So you can make really good decisions for your inner child, your teenager, right? You can learn how to heal all of that. So these are some of the topics that we cover. Yeah, these are the core things that I believe you need to transform, that I will teach you. I'll give you all of the tools that you can use for the rest of your life, no matter what you're confronted with daily, right? So when you have the right tools in your toolbox, it will help you navigate your way through your adult relationships with ease, okay? So improved mindset, reconnecting to your inner child, so bringing all those younger versions of you home, self-love, which is one of the most profound things you will experience. Because when you learn to love yourself and you fill your own cup, you don't need anybody else to do it. Then when you meet someone and your cup's overflowing and their cup's overflowing, then you're just dancing in this overflowing love. And when things show up, you can heal them and navigate your way through them. You're not in these reliant relationships where there's unhealthy attachments. You'll learn how to diffuse your own triggers, how to use your voice to express yourself. You'll remove your need for validation. You will learn how to communicate in an empowered way. You will welcome self-forgiveness and self-acceptance. Yeah, these are all really important steps to bringing all of those younger versions of you home. You'll release anger, guilt, and shame, which are the most toxic emotions that you can carry into your body. They're the most toxic emotions you can bring into your relationships with other people. So once you release them from your body, you create space for positive things. We'll deprogram your childhood beliefs and create new beliefs that support the person you want to be, but that will also support the relationships you want to have with people too. You'll learn about positive self-talk, and lastly, removing suspicion, right? Suspicion is a big part of how we, it's a big part of the lens that we see life through, right? So the program is usually $14.99 USD. That's how much I would usually charge for this type of program. But at the moment, it is at $5.97, and it will be for the next couple of weeks, right? And then after that, the price will go up. So it's about $37 per session, just a little bit over $37 per session. If you need a payment plan, there are payment plans available. The program starts Saturday, the 6th of November at 9 a.m. Melbourne, Australia time, which will be your Friday night if you're in the US. The program is run by Zoom, and like I said, it's all recorded, and you get all of the recordings if you can't make it to a specific session. So what I will do is I'll stop sharing, and I will share with you the link to the program. Let me just grab that for you. So are there any questions? Okay, so just pop the link to the program in the chat. So if you scroll all the way down the bottom, oh, hang on. If you scroll all the way down the bottom, you will see a way to purchase the program and secure your spot. So are there any questions from anybody about anything that I spoke about in today's class? No, let me just have a look through some of the comments here. Julie's saying looking forward to the program. So Julie's doing the program, Chris is doing the program. Okay, cool. All right, so we will leave it there. Thank you all so much for spending your Saturday night or your Sunday with me and coming along and listening to the webinar. If you jumped on the webinar halfway through, please come and follow me on YouTube. I'm going to upload it to YouTube in about half an hour when it's ready to be uploaded. And I'm sending you guys so much love. I hope that, you know, the information in today's webinar has helped you in some way. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Anne. Bye.
Bye.